So I'm probably going to tell you something you already know. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the West Ham Network. I hope you are safe and well as per usual. Now, I hope you enjoyed all the content we had for you yesterday. My word, it went off on the West Ham Network, didn't it? We had a Russia Reacts. He reacts to all your comments, of course, on the West Ham Network. It's a fantastic show. I've done it myself, and it's really good to be able to get that engagement with you, the West Ham fans, of course, as well, and getting your points across and then giving you our opinions on the basis of your comments. On top of that, you had Jamie's The Wrap Up Show, so make sure you do go back out and check that up, talking about leaders on the park, you name it, etc. And then we had the Old School Hammers with Budgie and Kieran, another fantastic show. And of course, happy birthday to our good old friend Kieran on the channel. I'm starting off the day today with a little cheeky bit of news that maybe, do you know what? Essentially, we probably all knew, and that is that the board tend to, you know, stay and stick with their boss. They've never really bought anyone out of their contract. And according to sources close to the club, in particular Clarence Hugh, they are actually saying that West Ham have no desire to sack David Moyes if that can possibly be avoided. Now, the rumors are suggesting that they are looking at alternatives and looking at managers in this for the summer. For the summer. Now, and an interesting spanner in the works, you could say, as Russ mentioned earlier on yesterday, Tommy Tuchel has become available from Bayern Munich, and the way that Bayern Munich have dealt with this matter could be a lesson that West Ham could take from their owners. But we don't do things like that. So no matter what, we're led to believe that Moyes will be here until the end of the season. Now, that could be changed due to a catastrophic level of defeats. Now, you would say to me, surely what we've had already is catastrophic. Well, yes, it is. You know, the 6-0 loss against Arsenal, 2-0 loss against Nottingham Forest on the back of a 3-0 loss at Manchester United, and adding into the mix 5-0 loss at Fulham and the 5-0 loss, 5-1 loss at the Carabao Cup against Liverpool. You know, there's not much more catastrophe West Ham can take, but you know what? We know exactly what the owners are and what they do and what they have done in the past. And really, it shouldn't come as much surprise to us, because when we have this hype about the manager, when we have this hype about change, when we have the hype about a link, you know what? The higher percentage chance of the thing that we're talking about happening is really slim. History repeats itself, it repeats itself. And that's what happens. And it's interesting because, again, I'm bringing it back to us as a social media channel that report the news. And that's all we're doing, is reporting the news. And it's just find it really interesting how sometimes when we think the world's closing in upon a manager, that suddenly, in actual fact, maybe it's actually not. Maybe the decision the board have made is that they're going to stick with Moyes and hope that he can turn this around. Then the question you may ask me is, well, if he doesn't turn it round, what do West Ham do then? Well, the chances of going down are really slim. And you're hearing conflicting reports coming out daily that 1 minute, you know, talks are on hold, then other people are saying we're drawing up a short list. One thing we can categorically, hopefully, push to the side is some of the names that have been linked to the club, because with all due respect, if we did get rid of David Moyes and brought in Steve Cooper, I wouldn't necessarily be happy. Listen, I would back the boss. I would back the boss no matter what, and give him a fair whip of the crack. But I wouldn't think that that would be change. It would be a typical Sullivan maneuver, but I don't think that would necessarily be change for West Ham. And there is still an opportunity that we can try and turn this season around. I mean, it's so easy to watch what's currently happening and think that's the end of the world. And it's funny, we were on the West Ham Network chat earlier on yesterday, and Dan, if you're watching as well, you know, he made a very, very good point when he discussed it and spoke it out loud. It started off by a debate by going, you know what, like someone else wrote, I can't help but think that, we're sitting in the top half of the league and we're in the Europa League and we should be really enjoying this season, but right now we're not. It's feeling the opposite. And usually when we have these feelings, it's because we are about to potentially get relegated and are fighting for our lives. And this brings up a unique situation for West Ham. We're the complete opposite. We're not fighting for our life. Listen, there's an outside chance you could get brought into a relegation battle, but the chances are going to be slim, right? But we're in a unique circumstances. That's why there's maybe not the level of drive from the board to change right now, to the frustration of the fans, because we're not in that drastic situation. Usually, like I said, let's rewind. We're challenging or struggling at the bottom half of the table and struggling to stay in the Premier League, and we don't have a quarter final on the back of a successful European campaign and 3 seasons in Europe as well. Now, I agree on the format that, listen, if we don't qualify for Europe again, that would be a bit of a disaster. If we finish 12th, then that's not great. That's not progression. That's really taking the steps back. And what does that do for the future of West Ham bringing in players? I don't actually know. Can we bring in that quality player? Well, I don't know. But what I also find really interesting is, if West Ham are doing all the hard work behind the scenes to bring in all the quality in terms of statisticians, you're bringing in the best scouting systems, you're bringing in a proper technical director, and we do look to make a change in the summer for a player, maybe you don't actually need European football. Now, people, hear me out. I'm not saying I want West Ham to have European football, but it might not be a disaster, because in actual fact, when we talk about bringing in the quality player, in theory, what West Ham fans want is that whole system to do its job and to create that model that Brighton have, who, using that model, have finally qualified for Europe. But that model is something that clubs look to strive to achieve. And that model has only had success by qualifying for Europe for 1 season. So I just wonder if West Ham do choose to change boss and don't progress right now and consolidate again, and have a clear plan come the summer, if you're talking about a manager like Tuchel or another manager that other people are wanting, who's a forward-thinking manager, that maybe we've got the structure inbuilt, the scouting system inbuilt that we've not had before, to be able to try and push this club from a different angle next season. I would prefer to be told now. I would be prepared to be told now. And I don't think it's healthy for David Moyes and this thing he's trying to build, whether he's up and down, in or out, shake it all about. You can take a leaf out of the book from maybe Bayern Munich. But equally, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is that down in tools? I don't think Tuchel will bite down tools, because he's within his interest to make the best to the end of the season, to try and drive to get the best contract he can for another club. He's already been linked to Barcelona, let alone West Ham. So it's an interesting take. There's so many different angles that you can look at this from, but I just wonder if there is a bigger plan. And I think the impatience in me is, I want to know, but we're not going to find out. It's as simple as that. We are not going to find out. And the concern always lies from the top from me. I've said it week in and week out, day in and day out. The concern lies at the top, the decision maker. Before I leave, there is a brand spanking new football prizes prize for you to get involved in. So make sure you go and click the link in the description. What a fantastic prize for the price of £3.95. You can enter in for a draw to win this 2023-24 white strip, away strip, signed and framed as well, signed by some of the current squad. What a fantastic prize, all for the price of £3.95. On top of that, there are 22 chances with low odds to win an instant win draw. You will be in for a chance to get a last 16 hospitality ticket, 2 hospitality tickets for the last 16 Europa League game as well. So make sure you go across to our channel sponsors at Football Prizes. to get yourself entered into that fantastic draw. Again, thank you very much to all the people over at Football Prizes. Now, that is me bringing an end to the West Ham Daily. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, do you think there's a bigger picture at West Ham? Answer that question. Do you think there's a bigger picture at West Ham? Is it the right decision to stick by Moyes now unless they have, or sorry, that's the wrong question I'll ask you. The next question I'll ask you is, would you rather know now and do the Bayern Munich model by knowing that Moyes is going to stay or not going to stay now? What would you prefer in terms of messaging? Let me know. Put it in the comments. Come on, you